Welcome back to my course Industrial Biotechnology. Now, last lecture I tried to cover two important topics, that is the bioenergy. The one is biodiesel, another is biobutanol, which is considered as a promising bioenergy source for the future. And now let me deviate from that little bit. Let me talk about some typical type of products that has biotechnology plays very important role. And you might be aware that that environmental pollution is a great concern nowadays, because if you consider any kind of chemical or biochemical industry, that they are before that, let me tell you a little bit story behind that, because we have Central Pollution Control Board, that is their main office is located in New Delhi, and they have their state branches in the different states, and they take care the environmental pollution problems, that not only water source but other sources also. Now we find that that water sources, the industry, particularly chemical and biochemical industry, they are playing massive role to pollute our water stream, which is major concern nowadays. Now and so that whenever any industry comes, chemical and biochemical industry, the new industry comes, they have to show that whatever waste is generated, wastewater is generated by the industry, it should be 100% taken into account. And biotechnology process plays very important role for removing the pollutant present in the wastewater, because I shall talk a little bit more when I shall talk about the activated sludge process, and also I shall talk about the biomethanation process, because these are the two processes largely in operation for the removal of the pollutant present in the wastewater. Today I want to discuss another very interesting topic, a little bit related with this, they call biofertilizer. Now question comes, what do you mean by biofertilizer? Biofertilizer means that we get the organic that we produce in the day-to-day life, how those organics can be utilized for the betterment for the plant growth. Because particularly I want to say that agricultural sector for increasing our plant, so that because we are in a vastly populated country, and we require a lot of food production, so that we can feed all the people. So this is a very important aspect to not only India, for all the countries throughout the world. Now when you do that, one thing is very important, because initially that we find due to the advancements of this technology, we develop lot of fertilizer, the inorganic fertilizer, particularly like urea, ammonium sulfate, different type of phosphate, or combination of different inorganic fertilizer with different NPK ratio, because that fertilization, that capability, because when you talk about the growth of the plants, they required a different ratio of NPK. NPK means nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. That ratio, they required a proper ratio for their growth. So when they use the inorganic source, now they found that soil is becoming fragile, or some kind of contamination problem that we have in the soil. So another important property of the soil is the water retention property. The water retention property will be greatly affected when you use the inorganic fertilizer. So the one way when we use the inorganic fertilizer, our agricultural productivity increased to a great extent. Another way, if you use the inorganic fertilizer for a longer period of time, your soil will lose the fertility. fertility means because if your water retention property of the soil decreases, then you have to use more water for the cultivation purpose. And we all know that plant usually take their nutrient through the process of diffusion, because it takes the nutrient through the roots and the process is diffusion. So today we have chosen another very interesting topic that is largely in operation in India, what is called biofertilizer. And biofertilizer can be produced by two means, both by aerobic process and the anaerobic process. Now in the last century, the chemical fertilizer were used in the agriculture. Farmers were happy of getting the increase in the agriculture in the beginning. But slowly the chemical fertilizer started displacing their yield effect, such as the leaching out, because it causes some kind of pollution of the water basin, destroying the microorganism and friendly insects, because some microorganisms also very useful and some insects also useful, that also they killed, making the crop more susceptible to the diseases and reducing the soil fertility. What I pointed out, one important characteristic is the water retention property, thus causing the irreparable damage to the overall system. This is the concern of the throughout the world, that how this inorganic fertilizer use can be minimized, because in the western country also we have seen that greatly they reduce the consumption of inorganic fertilizer, and they always prescribe that that we should go for using the biofertilizer, so that water characteristics, that soil characteristics will remain same, will be good for the growth of the plant. Now a number of intellectuals throughout the world started working on the alternatives, found that biofertilizer can help increasing the yield without causing damage associated with the chemical fertilizer. Now this is from garbage to garden, this is kind of concept that we have. Now preliminary question that might be arise, that how this waste material can be used as a fertilizer. I can tell you a very simple thing that we have. If you look at the organic material, it is comprises of the carbohydrate, it comprises of protein, it comprises of fat, like this. Now when you use any kind of microorganism, then it will degraded, and particularly protein, I want to mention that protein, when degraded, it produces amino acid. Protein is nothing but polymer of amino acid. When this amino acid undergo the deamination reaction, then pre-ammonia it relieve in the liquid, and an organic acid is present there. This ammonia can be a plant can take this ammonia as a source of hydrogen, source of nitrogen. So this is and they can use this nitrogen for their growth and metabolism. So this is one very important aspect we have. Another very important aspect that in the atmosphere we have several different type of bacteria, different type of organism. They can fix the molecular nitrogen that present in the atmosphere and produce the organic nitrogen. And then this nitrogen they can convert the ammonia, and this ammonia can be used as a for the growth of the plants. Now, in large population of a specific and a group of beneficial microorganisms for enhancing the productivity of soil, I told you this is how the productivity increases, because I told you that through the degradation process, deamination reaction, the ammonia comes out and increase the nitrogen content of the soil, and what the plant can use for their growth purpose, either by fixing atmospheric nitrogen or solubilizing the soil phosphorus, or by stimulating the plant growth, synthesis of growth promoting substances. Biofertilizer based on renewable energy source are cost effective, eco-friendly, can help to economize on the high investment needed for the chemical fertilizer. Now here I want to point out very simple thing that when you talk about biofertilizer, we can have very small setup. We don't have to go for bigger setup. So in a small way you can produce the biofertilizer, and lot of small entrepreneurs, they have the small farm, they marketed their product and sell it in the market. But when you go for the inorganic fertilizer, you have to have very big setup, very big investment you require for the production of the inorganic fertilizer like urea and ammonium sulfate, etc. Now, benefits of biofertilizer is increases the crop yield 20 to 30%, replace the chemical nitrogen and phosphorus by 25%, stimulate the plant growth, activate the oil biologically, and restore the natural soil fertility. This is very important. What you call that if we keep on using the inorganic fertilizer, natural soil fertility gets lost. But this, if we use there is a compound called humus that this kind of organic compounds, this increase the water retention property of the soil, which is very much required for the growth of the plant. Provide the protection against the drought and some soil-borne diseases. So this is another very important factor. Then another important thing is that it is cost-effective supplements to fertilizer, eco-friendly, reduce the cost towards the fertilizer use, and farms can prepare inoculum by themselves. That is exactly I am saying that farmer can produce this by themselves, but we don't have to rely on the industry. It depends on the industry. They can do by themselves. I'll show you how it can be done. That this is the biofertilizer, how it produced. This is the nitrogen fixing bacteria. You have azolla, we have phosphate solubilizing microbes, the vesicular, some kind of microflora, then plant growth promoting rhizobacterium. Rhizobacterium is used for fixing the nitrogen, molecular nitrogen, sulfur solubilizing microbes. So this is nitrogen fixing bacteria. We have several. We have Rhizobium, Azotobacter, Mycobacterium, and Azospirillum, and Bacillus. Then we have some blue green algae. I told you this is largely used, but they use the way also used for fixing the molecular nitrogen. Also is used for removing the pollutant present in the industrial wastewater. So this is, and they convert it is to nitrogen sources. বন্ধ হয়ে গেল? Start করব? আচ্ছা। Now type of fertilizer that is available with us. This is the following types of biofertilizer are available to the farmers in India. One is nitrogen fixing biofertilizer, Rhizobium, one of the Azospirillum, then Azotobacter that is used. Phosphorus solubilizing bacteria, we have fertilizer, we have Bacillus, Pseudomonas and Aspergillus. Phosphate mobilizing biofertilizer is Mycorrhiza. Then plant growth promoting biofertilizer is Pseudomonas species. Now Rhizobium fertilizer contains the Rhizobium microorganism. This microorganism live in association with the root leguminous plant in the form of root nodules. So, this microorganism fix the atmospheric nitrogen in the root and make it available to the plant, which plant can fix directly and make the soil fertile and also increase the plant health. So, how the biofertilizer works? Biofertilizer fix the atmospheric nitrogen, as I mentioned, then it solubilizes the phosphate, scavenges of the phosphate from the soil layers, and they produce also some hormones and anti-metabolites which promote the root growth. They decompose the organic matter, help the mineralization in soil, and when applied to seed or soil, biofertilizer increase the availability of nutrient and improves the yield 10 to 25% without adversely affect the soil environment. Now, as per biofertilizer is produced through the process of composting, and two type of composting process we have. We have aerobic composting, that means under aerobic condition we produce this fertilizer, and another is the anaerobic composting. Under anaerobic, in absence of oxygen, we produce this fertilizer. In India, aerobic composting plants has been used to process up to 500 tons per day of waste material. This is greatly used. If you look in the village, we will find that farmers, they can easily produce the anaerobic biofertilizer, because they can dig the land and put all the organic waste there for some time and can close it. Then after some time they take the material out, maybe after 2-3 months, and use them as a biofertilizer. This is largely practiced in the rural areas. Now, let me tell you some information about the aerobic composting process, how it is taking place. Rapid but partially decomposition of moist and solid organic matter, primarily garbage, which contains the plant nutrient like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, by the use of aerobic organism under the control. Now, here I told you previously also, aerobic organism, they work much faster as compared to anaerobic organism. So, what you have to do, you have to spray the organism on the surface of the organics, and then you have to renew the surface again and again, so that and spray some kind of moisture in it, because your organism required some kind of liquid for their growth and metabolism. So, that is the prerequisite for carrying out this kind of aerobic composting process. Now, results is a sanitary nuisance free and humus like material that can be used. The humus like material actually improve the soil retention property of the soil. So, this is which is considered as a soil conditioner and fertilizer. The process of composting involve an interaction between organic waste, microorganisms and moisture and oxygen. This is like the raw materials is coming here, and it passes through this composting process, where the oxygen and microorganism and all water, they all take part in this reaction, and finally it produces the organic matter, including carbon, chemical energy, nitrogen, protein, humus type of material, minerals and microorganism, which is beneficial for the plant growth. Now, schematically this process can be explained like this. You have organic matter. Is organic matter, we put moisture, then we put the microorganism, then oxygen, because this is the aerobic process, because aerobic process is quite faster. Then we get the humus or compost, and it is can use as a fertilizer. And here also you can have the breakdown product, it can use as a compost. And then this here we have, from that we can take the new organism, recycle back to the system. So, you can see that you can take the this you can use as a inoculum for this process also. Now, composition of organic matter is like this. The heat and cold soluble sugars, starches and urea. This is 0.5 to 30% of dry weight, and percentage dry weight of manure is 2 to 20%. So, different composition of the fertilizer is given here. That now, material that can be composted: organic solid waste, animal manure or beddings, and human waste and sewage sludge, what is including the what you call urine and manure that is used for this. Phases of composting, that under ideal condition composting proceeds through the three major phases. And initial mesophilic phase, in which the decomposition is carried out under the moderate temperature by the mesophilic organism. I told you mesophilic organism is usually you work at 35 to 37 degrees centigrade, is close to our ambient temperature. As the temperature rises, a second thermophilic phase starts, in which the decomposition is carried out by various thermophilic bacteria at high temperature, about 45 to 60 degrees centigrade. As the supply of high energy compound is dwindling, that the temperature starts to decrease, and mesophiles once again predominant in the maturation phase. So this is how we can show the aerobic composting process. Refuse, it comes to the reception, then we do the screening, because it contains lot of plastic and other type of material that you have to reject it. So you have to take mostly the organic material. Then you have shredder or pulverizer. Pulverizer means you have to take make it powder form. Then is a separator. You can the magnetic form, by using magnet you can separate the iron type of material, and the rotor disc or plastics and dense plastic, that you can with respect to density we can separate the particle. Then we add moisture adjustment, then it undergo digestion, then we produce the carbon dioxide, water vapor and excess air. Then maturation, then screening, we whatever big particle is there, we take it out. And this composting we can do the upgrading, because I told you that quality of the fertilizer depends on the NPK ratio. The NPK ratio, they have a particular plant has that NPK ratio, though this NPK ratio is to be maintained. And suppose in case of biofertilizer, the desired NPK ratio is very difficult to establish, so we might have to add some kind of inorganic fertilizer to maintain a particular NPK ratio, which will be a sellable product. So this is how aerobic the composting process in practice. Let me talk about some anaerobic digestion process, what we call anaerobic composting. The anaerobic digestion is a biological wastewater treatment process. Then the treatment reduces the organic matter such as the sludge and concentrated organic industrial waste which contains solid. Now let me tell you very simple that that anaerobic digestion process is such a process. With the invention of this process, it is possible to take lot of revenue from the waste material. One is obviously the biofertilizer. How it is done? Because it is very simple. I told you this is a ancient practice, that in the villages the farmers they take the waste material and they dig the land and put all the organic waste material there, and they close the pit, and after some time, maybe after 2-3 months, they take out this material, use as the organic fertilizer. Very simple process. Now question comes, how the anaerobic process works? Because anaerobic digestion process comprises of two type of bacteria. One is called two group of bacteria rather, one is called acidogens and another is methanogens. So acidogens actually they degrade the organic material, they degrade the different polymeric materials, because solid waste comprises of cellulose, protein and lipid, and this type of material they will degrade that and solubilize that. And then methanogenic bacteria, they can convert it to methane. So it has been observed that landfill gas generation process is kind of waste disposal process that there is largely in operation in Western country, and they are successfully used for the generation is for the methane and carbon dioxide. And not only that, fermented material, that after the digested material can be used as a good fertilizer. And because all the landfill, they are making gold corps or good nursery or good playground. It is very because you don't have to use the additional fertilizer there, because land is already fertile. So this is as the quantity of the organic solids are decreased in the sludge. After this process, the treated sludge is easier to dispose due to less volume. And I can tell you here a very interesting story that we have, that when I was invited by small scale industry division of West Bengal, and in some meeting where they discuss about the suitability of this anaerobic digestion process. And in process we visited one site of in a place what name is Barasat. This is very close to Kolkata, and there we observed that one particular household, he has a very big poultry farm. And as you know that he told us that when he established that farm, the population was very less. As you know, as the population increases, most of the cosmopolitan cities, they are expanded. So like this, the Kolkata has expanded and the Barasat becoming overpopulated. And as soon as it is populated, then all the people that are residing there, they gave the strong objection to this the person, and asked them to shift his poultry from that place to other place. Now that gentleman come in contact with the small scale industrial division of West Bengal, and they suggested for the anaerobic digestion plant. And by anaerobic digestion plant, since it is a closed system, after the digestion there is no smell in kind of waste material, and that can be used as a good fertilizer, biofertilizer. So it is a very good use that we have. And he told us that he is running a good nursery. He showed that there is good nursery, and also whatever methane is used, they are using as a source of fuel. So nutrient remained in the effluent as a biofertilizer. So it is schematically, it can be explained like this. The anaerobic digestion process, we have suppose the industry, the distillery, they produce lot of organic waste, that we have slurry tank, we have solid material, feed hoppers, agricultural waste we have. This all we can put it in the anaerobic digester. And from the anaerobic digester we can produce the gas, and through which we can generate the power. We can generate the power, electricity we can generate, and then digested material we can take it out and use as a biofertilizer. So this is largely in practices. Now the inside of the bioreactor or digester, this is the pattern of reaction. Complex organic matter, carbohydrate, protein and fat, they are first hydrolyzed to the soluble like sugar, amino acid and fatty acid, and then it is converted to mixed volatile fatty acid. This mixed volatile fatty acid then converted to methane and carbon dioxide. So this is how the reaction take place in the anaerobic digester. And anaerobic digester inside looks like this. Here at the bottom you will find any kind of the digested material, and in the middle you will find mostly active digesting sludge, and at the top you will find the supernatant layer, and here the gas will be removed. And here I can tell you a very interesting story that when I was in Delhi, I visited a landfill area called Timarpur, and where all this organic material dump in the landfill. And when I visited that, I observed that there are at least 30 to 35 pockets where we have, I saw the continuous flame burning. So that when I asked them that that why it is burning, they told that that when the trucks goes for unloading their waste, all the driver, they might be smoking this, they throws their cigarette and other things, and with that the gas which is coming out, that catch fire. And this in the night it looks like Deepavali, because whole night that the different flames is there throughout this. Because in the western country, as I told you, they follow the international sanitary law, and international sanitary law says that after the disposal of the solid waste, it should be covered with 6-inch thick clay layer, so that gas should not go out. And then they put some kind of perforated that pipes under this landfill, and they keep the negative pressure in the pipeline, so that all the gas whatever produced they can suck, and it contains mostly the carbon dioxide and methane. Carbon dioxide they can remove by passing through the scrubber, and they get the pure methane gas, which can be used as a pipeline quality gas for as a source of fuel. So this is the thing that we have, anaerobic digestion process, that what are the parameters: temperature, product concentration, that organic loading rate, carbon and the nutrient availability, toxic substance, pH, alkalinity, solid, and hydraulic detention time. All these things, that important parameters that we have as per anaerobic digestion is concerned. Obviously, if you talk about the hydraulic detention time for anaerobic composting is more high, it will be more as compared to aerobic composting, because aerobic organism, they grow very fast. The waste stabilization is very important, because if you throw any kind of waste to the atmosphere, if it goes to the unnatural degradation process, it produces lot of gases which is not good for our health. Methane, it comes, if we inhale the methane, that is not good for our health. Carbon dioxide also causes some kind of greenhouse effect. So this is and also they degraded this, this is to be treated properly. So digestion of this material is very much reduce organic content of the waste material and produce the stabilized sludge, which can be used as a fertilizer or soil conditioner. So although the practical study, the stabilized starch nutrient, nitrogen is 0.95, phosphorus is 0.8, and potassium 0.45 is not comparable with the chemical fertilizer, which has high NPK value, but it can be comparatively reduce the usage of chemical fertilizer, because we can add some kind of chemical fertilizer so that total inorganic fertilizer consumption will greatly reduce. The anaerobic digestion does not remove or destroy any other of the nutrient from the domestic and farm waste, but makes more available for the plant. Because I told you, due to deamination process, the amino acid when degraded and discharge the ammonia, this ammonia will be used as a for the growth of the plants. And also I told you it is used as a soil conditioner. This is one big application we have. So I request you, you can visit these different sources, so to get more information on this particular biofertilizer process. So today I try to discuss one very important topic of biofertilizer, which is largely operation in India as well as in the abroad. I told you in the foreign countries, more than 50% this fertilizer is replaced by the biofertilizer just to maintain the fertility of the soil. Now, if we keep on increasing the use of inorganic fertilizer, the fertility of the soil will greatly lost. The two type of process through which we can get the biofertilizer, one is aerobic composting and another anaerobic composting. Aerobic composting comparatively is very fast. We can use artificially, we can use the microorganism to degrade the material, and we put some kind of air to it or moisture to it, so the rate of reaction will be faster. Anaerobic digestion composting process is very simple. You can just put the the waste material in a particular dumping place, and then after sometimes after 2-3 months you take the material, use as a compost. I hope this will give you some idea on biofertilizer. Thank you very much.